Hey, everybody. Melinda Russell here with the Women's Motorsports Network. And I have the best guests. If you're not listening to my podcast, you should be because the guests I have on are amazing. And today is no different. This is Jessica Fickensher. And if you don't know who she is, you should. And by the time we're done, you're going to know her even better. So, Jessica, I'm going to kind of let you tell about yourself and who you are. So why don't you start with a little personal information, whatever you're willing to share, and then we're going to get into how you got involved in motorsports.
Absolutely, Melinda. And thank you so much for having me on. And yes, so my name's Jessica Fichensher. I am the Chief Experience Officer for Speedway Motorsports. I've been in my role for, a few years now. I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I'm a wife to my husband, Jim Fickensher, who actually works for the Performance Racing Network. And I have two boys, Jack, who will be 18 in a few weeks, and JC, who's 16.
Okay. And do you have any pets, or you don't have time for that?
I do have a pet. Actually, the dog is the love of my life. It's so I have a beautiful golden retriever who is 3 years old.
Oh, that's cool. So my family made fun of me because I was never a dog person. And then we stayed in an RV park in Arizona a couple different winters, and everybody has a dog. Well,
Right.
My husband has a big 60-pound, kind of mixed breed dog. But I was never, much of a dog person, even as a little girl. Well, after being out there, then I got the dog bug, and I got a little Shih Tzu for my birthday in December. He is the love of my life. Yeah.
That's crazy. They win you over. They don't talk back. They love you unconditionally. What more can you ask for?
They want to sit and snuggle with you, and it's just the best. So I understand about the dog for sure.
Yeah.
So Jessica, let's talk about racing, because that's what you and I both live, I think, for day in and day out. So why don't you start with, how did you get involved in motorsports?
Right, sure. So I went to college, a small college in North Carolina, Belmont Abbey College, probably 20 miles south of Charlotte Motor Speedway. And I was a sports management major, and I had to do an internship in professional sports. And back then the Panthers weren't here yet in Charlotte. There was not a whole lot. And somebody told me I needed to go up to Charlotte Motor Speedway and talk to this guy, Humpy. Thought, well, Humpy, that's a weird name, but okay. And I met with Humpy, and I started my internship there at 19 years old, and I've been there ever since. And I still see Humpy all the time. So
isn't that amazing? And, especially nowadays, companies close, they move, whatever could happen.
Yes.
And it's unusual, honestly, to find someone who's been there for, what did you say, how many years since then?
Yeah, just about 27. So,
wow.
Very, very blessed. My husband at work, we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. So, lots of good things have come out of working for Speedway Motorsports.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, honestly, I'm sure at the time when you started there, you didn't know it was your dream job, but really it is.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So did you know a lot? I mean, growing up in that area, did you know a lot about NASCAR?
I grew up in New Jersey. So born and raised New Jersey, and then went to North Carolina for college. So I really didn't know anything about racing, but I fell in love with everything. I fell in love with the people, the business behind it. It was just, I grew up a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, a Flyers fan. So I grew up loving sports, but I'd never seen anything quite like racing and just the atmosphere it creates. And I just, like I said, I fell in love with not only the sport, but the business behind the sport. And now, I read and watch and absorb everything I can about racing.
Yeah. And, we say, oh, racing's addicting, but it really is addicting. And it isn't just watching the cars go on the track. It truly is the people that you meet. I think the friendships you make and the people you work with, the people you meet along the way. And to me, that's just been such a blessing to me in my life. And, if racing ended tomorrow, which God forbid that would happen, we know it's not going to. But if it did, I would still have all these friendships.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So that's what I love, especially about it. So why don't you tell me what the Chief Experience Officer does, and has that kind of been your role the whole time, or how did you progress from intern to what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I started out in the PR department. And then I still had a senior year of college. So I would always just be there helping when I could, after classes, any event I could be at. I just did everything and anything that I was asked of. So kind of had met people in all different departments. And then a position came open at PRN, the radio network, and I started working there. I worked for Benny Parsons on doing his Monday night talk show for him, and became very, very close with him and his wife, Terry. And at PRN, I was a client services assistant. So I just helped out the sales department. And then from there, we were, I don't know if you remember, but we were Lowe's Motor Speedway at one point. And Marcus Smith had gotten that deal done, and he needed somebody to help him kind of manage the account. So I started working for Marcus over 20 years ago specifically. And then as Marcus moved up along the ranks, I just kind of went along with him. So I was a vice president of special projects, and then Chief Experience Officer for about the last 4 years now. And basically that role it's pretty broad. It covers a lot of things, but the fan experience from the time that they buy their tickets to when they leave the track. So I touch food and beverage, our training and staffing for all of our, tickets and traffic and parking attendants. Basically anything that the fan's going to touch, I kind of have my hand in. And then I also help oversee our capital projects with Marcus, and then our U.S. Legends program, which is for those that don't know, U.S. Legends cars is it can be for hobbyists. It's also probably known as the Pop Warner of racing. So about 75% of the drivers between the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series have come up through our program. And now I've kind of turned that over to Graham Smith, Marcus's son, who worked with me there. Now he's at the helm. But yeah, I kind of have my hands in a little bit of everything. And then obviously, as you know, I was assigned a project last August that was kind of out of my wheelhouse, but we got it done.
You did, and so we might as well go there.
Yeah.
I think the most, I think for one thing, for people who didn't know you prior to North Wilkesboro, your name was attached to that for the last several months, one with the other, because that was a huge project. So why don't you talk about, how that came about, what your responsibilities were, and then let's look back and say, this went well, this didn't, and let's hear your perspective on that.
Absolutely. So just to give a little bit of background, North Wilkesboro Speedway opened up in 1947. And so it opened up before NASCAR was formed, and it closed in 1996 with Jeff Gordon winning the last race there. Well, we had ownership of that track for quite some time. And about 3 years ago, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years ago, Dale Jr. said to Marcus, man, you got to get that track cleaned up, because iRacing can't scan it because there's weeds and trees growing out of the track and out of the grandstands. He said, but if we got that cleaned up, iRacing will come in and scan it. And a little side note, that's still the number one most popular racing surface on iRacing right now is North Wilkesboro. So it kind of started with Dale Jr. and Marcus going out there on a really, really cold winter day with some weed whackers and some mowing equipment. And we started to get the track cleaned up, scanned it for iRacing. Was pretty successful, from the iRacing standpoint, but never really had much thought of it being anything else than what it was and kind of returning to the earth. Then fast forward a few years, and we were approached by a race promoter that said, hey, I want to do some races there. And then, in August and then in October, put dirt on it and then run some dirt races. And it was pretty much, here you go, here's the keys. We're not doing anything we'll let you rent the track, but that's about all you're going to get out of it. So we put this event on. We announced it last April. First events were in August, and it was just gangbusters. Well, so Dale Jr. raced it and everything.
Sure.
we're not sure exactly how many people we had there, but it felt every bit of 18,000. I mean, traffic was backed up. It was bananas, but there was such an electric in the air and this passion from the community that it kind of still, I'm getting goosebumps right now. It was just like, man, I think there's something here. And then Dale Jr. calls Marcus. He's like, we got to do something like that. That was the coolest thing I've ever done. And so Marcus called up Lisa and Jim France and Ben and said, hey, what do you think about the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro? You know, it's NASCAR 75th, and they love the idea. They're like, if you can get the track ready, we're all for it. Thumbs up. So Marcus came to myself and Steve Swift, Steve Swift is our vice president of development. So he builds everything, and said, hey, do you think we can have the track ready to run an All-Star race? And we're thinking 2024, not 20. Like, yeah, no problem. And he's like, well, great, because we're going to announce it like next week probably. And, you know, the All-Star race would be like, you know, in 8 months. And we're like, oh, you mean like next year? So we stepped back. We're like, well, yeah, we still think we can have it done. It's just going to be a lot. So so it was definitely unique building a track and putting together the event. And that's kind of how we ended up where we were, or where we got to. And it definitely the most rewarding thing I've ever done, for sure.
Well, a huge project, something that, you know, I follow Dale Jr. I listen to his podcast religiously. And so
Yes.
I know all about those things that you were talking about. And it was kind of like almost like kind of his baby too, only he wasn't doing the work.
he did a lot for us. Just him endorsing it and being behind it was huge. It was huge.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, let's get some statistics about it. About how many tickets did you sell?
So we had about just shy 26,000 grandstand seats, and that was sold out. And then we had another standing room only for Sunday in the infield area where the truck series trucks were parked. So that they moved out, and then we had that all open for fans as well. So I think between industry and everything else, probably 30,000.
30,000 people. And so one of the major things that everybody was worried about prior to was the traffic and the parking.
Yes.
But from what I heard, it went flawlessly. So how did you pull that off?
So that was our biggest worry going into it. And we spent every week with the Sheriff's Department, North Wilkesboro Police Department, Wilkesboro Police Department, Highway Patrol, and DOT. And we just had meetings every single week on how we're going to make this work. Because we knew, you know, and I'd been at Speedway Motorsports for a long time, and we had a track record of inaugural events not doing very well with traffic. So I was like, this is not going to happen on my watch. And just really all the planning. And I took, because, you know, we don't have a staff there. So I took the best folks at our facilities across the country and brought them in for this event. So David Stetzer from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Tom Vesey from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and folks from Bristol Motor Speedway. I feel like I had a first round draft pick for every position. So I had the A team, and we just worked really, really hard. And it was the community. We had town hall meetings at the convention center up there. We invited all the neighbors in and wanted to know, you know, are they going to park on their property, and let's help them figure it out, because we wanted everybody to be successful. So it was just a lot of communication, a lot of planning. We probably overplanned and to put it in perspective, you know, most of our tracks are 1,500 to 2,000 acres. North Wilkesboro Speedway is 100 acres, and 43 of those acres is the actual track. So we had to rent all the land around us. We had to work with the neighbors. So but everybody was so about it being successful. So we really didn't run into any obstacles. You know, we were all rowing in the same direction. And I think that's really was the key to everything.
Oh, absolutely. Because, you know, it would only take one to throw the apple basket upside down, for sure.
Yes.
And so the neighbors around the track probably were excited to see some, you know, it was falling apart. It basically was falling apart.
Yes.
And every time you drive by something like that, It's like, I wish they'd do something with that property.
Right.
And even though, yes, there's traffic that goes by and there's parking, but it's only one day a week, 2 days, or a weekend.
Right.
But the rest of the time, at least your property values around the track are better for that.
Right.
I'm sure. So, and that's such an iconic place.
Yes.
That I think people have a deep love for not losing any more tracks, and they want to see those be successful. Right. And I'm sure the people around there and people in the town, they benefit from that race coming there.
Yes.
People buy groceries, they buy gas, they do all kinds of things. So I was glad to see that it came off, that part of it came off flawlessly, because that could have been, horrendous.
Right.
I live in Kalamazoo, Michigan, so I've gone to Michigan for enough races to know that sometimes it's flawless. And other, a few years ago when I went, I was in line to leave for hours.
Yeah.
And you can't, that's just not, people aren't going to do that. And so I'm so glad that it worked out really well. So were there anything, and you don't have to share this part if you don't want to, but was there anything that happened or that you all said, oh, that really didn't work like I thought? We're going to improve that, because I'm sure we're going to go back there.
Yeah. So it's funny because as we sit here, I've got all these post event notes I was typing up from the staff that helped me work the event, and there's not a lot that that we would change. Everything really, really went off so well. I think, obviously we want to get tickets on sale right now. We're chomping at the bit to get that 2024 schedule announced. And I know NASCAR and our side and TV, they're all working really hard to finalize that. So, I mean, I'm trying to think, at the end of the day, the days of racing that we had, I think were great. The Tuesday, Wednesday, the pit crew competition was fun. Maybe some tweaks with the concerts, but, maybe different timing. But I think really it was such a success. It's almost one of those things, if it's not broke, why try to fix it?
Right.
And, obviously an inaugural event's always going to be, crazy. And next year we probably will taper off a tiny bit, but I still think the demand's going to be there, because the people that couldn't get the tickets last year are going to want to come this year, or next year. But yeah,
absolutely, for sure. I definitely want to try to get there, and I didn't try it this year, but that's on my bucket list, and so definitely try to do that. What would you say? Like I listened to Dale Jr. He was a little bit down about the actual race.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, but here's the thing. And I think, and like Mike Davis said to him, I think Dale was taking it a little too personally,
right?
Because you can't control what happens during the race.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, the truck race I thought was really good, but once Kyle Larson got out there, you just nobody could catch him. We are going to be repaving the track. So that, I don't know if but the track has not been paved in 40 years.
I know.
So it's pretty rough. So we have a NASCAR wheel-in modified race coming up September 30th there. And right after that race, we'll do a repave. And it's small enough where it won't not going to be like in Atlanta where you're kind of out for 8 months. It should be fairly quickly. And hopefully, working with Goodyear and the tire, that we'll see some improvements. But the one thing that I wish would have been different is the outcome of the race, but that's, like you said, out of our hands. But
right.
Yeah.
And honestly, Kyle Larson is the best, is one of the best, if not the best driver.
Yes.
And so it was fitting to me.
Yeah.
I felt like it was fitting that he just went there and went full guns ahead and here's the other thing. Of course it's about the winner, but there's good racing from fourth and fifth and
There
eighth
was.
and ninth.
There were some battles, great battles going on in the back, but
Right.
obviously everybody's kind of focused on Kyle. But to your point, he is so talented. And I between him and the only other person I could think of that I would have thought maybe would have won is Joey Logano, because he seems to figure out all the new tracks when he comes
Right.
on. Kyle's the same way though. So you got these,
Well, and I think, Kyle races so many tracks.
Yes.
Races all the time, and he does race new tracks.
Yes.
He doesn't always go to Knoxville or wherever. And so I think he also is able to figure things out. And it's been on iRacing, which I know helps. And those guys all do that. And so, but I wasn't there in person, so maybe I would have a different opinion about how the race went. But from everything that I listened to, and I listened to a lot of podcasts, I felt like people said the atmosphere was electric. It was packed. People were happy.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's more to it than just the winner. I hate to say that.
You're right.
The guys that race, but it really is more than just the winner of the race.
It is. And you could not, if you had a logoed shirt on and you looked like you're a staff employee there, you couldn't walk 2 feet without somebody coming up and thanking you and having grown men come up to you with tears in their eyes saying, I came here with my grandfather and my father. You don't know what this means to us. It was so much more than a race. It was, I kind of equated it to the movie Cars when Radiator Springs comes back to life. That's how I felt. Like this town had just blossomed, and just the community was just it was awesome. I mean, it was just so special.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I took from it, from everything I heard without being there, is that, it was an experience, chief experience officer. So, and it really was an experience. And, and we know, and especially, you could really speak to this. NASCAR fans nowadays don't want just a race.
Right.
They want to be entertained. They want concerts. They want other things besides the race. And we know that for me to travel, let's say for me to travel to Charlotte to the race, I have to pay, I have gas or airfare. I have hotels. I have meals. It's not cheap for me to come. So I want to do other things besides watch the race. Right. Because honestly, I can do that at home.
Right.
I mean, it's not the same, but so when I come, I want good food. I want music. I want to be able to watch driver interviews, all those things. Right. And that's what that's what people want.
Absolutely. And I do think that's what makes our sport so special, because you get that every weekend. I know not just Speedway Motorsports tracks, but NASCAR, they put so much into that fan experience, from the fan zones and making sure you've got that feeling. It's that,
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. So now that Wilkesboro is behind you, are you already working for next year? You have a lot of other projects on your plate. What are you doing like right now? What's part of your job?
So right now we're working on all the capital projects that we're going to do in 2024, and kind of getting them lined up and working with whoever we need to work with on those projects, whether it be the folks at the tracks, or if we need to work with designers or architects, that kind of thing. So that'll be something that we try to lock up by the end of August. We're working on the 2024 schedule now, but still we're planning for 2024, even though things aren't announced yet. Mm-hmm. And, I'm getting ready. I head for Atlanta Thursday of next week, and I go right from Atlanta. Then I go to Indy for a sports design forum on sports facilities. So I'm speaking at that, and I go right from there to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So, a little busy.
It's busy. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So as we're recording this, we're looking to the weekend of the Chicago Road Course race.
Yeah.
I know that that's a NASCAR event compared to what you guys do, but we all watch and have interest in how it's going, what's happening. You're friends with Julie Geisey, who's running that event. And so, we all have a stake in what happens there this weekend, really, because that determines maybe we're going to get a lot of new fans. I heard that 70% of the tickets sold were to people who had never been to a NASCAR race.
That's what I heard as well. Yeah, which is super exciting. And I'm sure you've been following on social media some of the cool things that they're doing downtown, and lots of young people.
Yes.
It looks like they're engaging with, which is really exciting for our sport as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that'll fall, that'll roll over to tracks that you guys own as well.
Yeah.
And like the Coliseum, my husband and I went to the first race at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And, we were in Arizona for the winter, so it wasn't that far to go. But I wanted to be a part of something that was new. And I could say, I was at the first one that they did, and that was true of like your event and then the Chicago event. There's going to be people that say, hey, I went to the first race at for the Chicago road course, because I'm hearing it's a 3-year deal. So I think we're going to be going back there. Maybe next year I'll drive into the city a few days early.
Yeah.
And because they need your help with the traffic flow, I think, just on a normal day in Chicago.
Yeah, right.
When the Cubs are in town and the race. But we're excited to look, to see how that's all going to work.
Yes.
What kind of things do you, look for or take away when, like, they're putting this event on, it's in their lap, but what are you watching for, like, for something that you may need to do down the road?
Yeah, I think, and not just for another NASCAR event, I think I'm kind of, any kind of event I go to, whether it's a concert, a music festival, or, a sporting event, I'm just looking to see what are they doing to engage, with their fans? What are the food and beverage options? What do their bathrooms look like? Like, what do their lines look like? What's the gate process? People backed up getting searched or I kind of like look at all that little stuff and then figure out who's doing it the best. And there's, what do their kids zones or kids areas look like, and how are they engaging with younger kids and younger fans? What kind of music do they have? And obviously, we kind of skew a lot towards country music, but, do people like other kinds of music? And so, I kind of just have my eyes open for all that kind of stuff. And usually, like, people are taking pictures and selfies of themselves. I'm taking pictures of the menu boards with pricing, or looking to see how fast they're cooking the hamburgers. But
yeah. So that makes sense now that you say that, and I knew your perspective when you go to an event would be different than probably mine. I'm looking to engage with women to hand out information about, how women can get involved, that racing is not a man's sport. It's for all of us.
Yes.
And so we all kind of have our little niche about what what we're watching for sure.
Yeah.
So if of all the tracks that you've been to, whether they're NASCAR or Speedway Motorsports, what would be your favorite track to go to?
Well, I love going out to Sonoma because I love wine. So I do like going out to wine country. But I'll tell you, if it is from from a race fan perspective, I love going to Atlanta. I think the racing's great there. I think Charlotte Motor Speedway, the racing has been, I know that actually all the 1.5 mile tracks lately, with the new car, like, it's just been, they've been so good and so fun to watch. But if I'm going out there and want to piddle around the area, I'd pick Sonoma. But, other than that, if I'm going to go for some really fun competition and watch the race, I like Atlanta. Yeah.
Atlanta's good. I have friends that live close, and I keep threatening that I'm going to show up and go to the race and take them to the race. They're a little north of Atlanta, and I know the track is basically south of but still it's in the same general area. So that's, my bucket list has a lot of things on it, but one of them is every NASCAR race, go to a NASCAR race at every track. And so
love it.
That's kind of my my bucket list. I don't know if you know, but Carson Hocevar is from my area. He's from Portage, and Kalamazoo are basically one town. And my granddaughters both used to race quarter midgets against him.
Okay. Well, Carson, that's awesome. He's been doing good. I got my eye on him.
Yeah, he's been doing really good, and he's a great kid, wonderful family.
That's great.
So I've watched him for many years. So I have a special interest in the trucks, and I love the trucks anyway.
Yes.
But and I've gotten to know, quite a number of people just from attending events.
Yeah.
But it just is so fun. It's like family reunion when you can actually get to the track for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jessica, in motorsports, I know you're leaving a legacy for those behind you, women who are coming through and holding roles of importance. So what would you say your legacy is or will be when you're retired and you're in Sonoma drinking some wine?
Oh man, I don't know. I'd like to think that I was a good mentor towards young women, and not just young women, but to anybody young coming up in through the sport. I'm a big proponent of our internship programs. I love our interns. That's how I started out. That's how a lot of folks I know that started out. So I hope that I'm, as an approachable person, I hope that people would never be afraid to ask me for some advice or for help on anything. So I guess that's what it would be.
Okay, awesome. So social media is so huge, personally and professionally. How does Speedway Motorsports, or how do you in your role use social media to promote, Speedway Motorsports, your tracks, your events? What platforms do you use? How do you use them, etc.?
So we are on, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the things that are out there now. We are on. We've been actually kind of lucky because North Wilkes for the All-Star race, the Coke 600, and the Nashville Super Speedway race, we were sold out for all those races. Mm-hmm. So social media was more of a know before you go, how to plan for the event, and just giving people updates on what's happening during the event. And then the rest of the time, the platforms are really used for pushing ticket sales. Okay. So we're not so much of a content-driven platforms. They can go to other places to find their news. We really try to tell them how to get to the track, how to buy tickets, how to prepare for coming to the track. Big on to download our app so you get the notification, so you're not going to miss Trackside Live with Kenny Wallace interviewing Kyle Larson on it and that kind of thing. So
right. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And it's easy to find Speedway Motorsports.
It is. And or just follow any one of our tracks. They all have their own.
Now, how many tracks does Speedway Motorsports own?
So we're at 11 now, I think.
Okay.
I know I keep losing. So we've got Atlanta, Bristol, Charlotte, Dover, North Wilkesboro, New Hampshire, Texas, Kentucky. We still have Sonoma, Atlanta, and 11.
Yeah, 11.
Yep.
So Kentucky, what is it? Any thoughts there about reviving Kentucky?
Well, Kentucky right now, I think, is making more money than it ever has because Amazon and a couple OEMs are using it for storage. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, if somebody would have told me we were going to North Wilkesboro 10, 15 years ago, I would tell them you're crazy. So I learned that you never know.
Never say never.
Never say never. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For sure. So Jessica, your favorite thing about your job, what you do, etc.
That's so hard because there's so many amazing things. I think the thing I like the most is, the people number one. I mean, I have the most amazing coworkers and I've been with them, some of them for 20 plus years. So they're like family, but there's never the same thing every day. It's always something different. There's always a new project. It never gets boring. It's, and we're in the memory making business. Right. So, we have, and I'm sure this, like we've got, like you said, their bucket list. We have people that, they might be dying of cancer, but they want to come to this race, or somebody's getting engaged at our race. Like these are memory making moments, and it's so much bigger than we are. And I just love being part of that and helping people make their dreams come true and just giving them that unforgettable experience that they're never, ever going to forget.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love what you just said. My one daughter is a travel agent. She was a teacher, always wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
found out that teaching, wasn't maybe exactly what she thought it was going to be, or it
Right.
wasn't what it was when she was a student. Let's put it
Right.
that way.
Right.
Things have really changed. She also loves Disney and travel. So she's now a travel agent. And her, her perspective on life has really changed.
Yeah.
Now she understands that it's all about the experience and
Yes.
not about the things.
Right.
So,
Yes.
her kids and all my grandkids have way too many things.
Yes.
But they don't always have a lot of experiences to remember.
Right.
And she's doing well. Actually, all my daughters do a great job, but she especially does an excellent job of making memories. And so that was something my mom always was good at and said. And so that's huge for me when you say that we provide memory making opportunities.
Yeah.
And Jessica, there's probably a lot of them you don't even know.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
We don't know.
Yeah. And people, it's like you said before, it's not cheap to go to sporting events and to travel. And people save their hard-earned money, and we want to make sure that they don't regret that, and they feel good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I have a suggestion for you to tell Marcus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that they need to buy a hotel chain.
Yeah.
Because I'm
No,
serious.
I hear
you. You go to, let's say you're going to go to Bristol or wherever to the race, all the hotel prices go up.
I know.
You go to Shark. I mean, it's what it is. That's how the hotels do.
Yeah.
But the next capital improvements, acquiring whatever it is.
Yeah.
Our hotels where race fans can get a reasonably priced room. Yeah. You're going to fill the hotel. And, I kind of laughingly say that, but in a lot of ways.
Agree with you. I know. I hate it when I see those hotel prices and I'm like, oh, you're just killing people.
Yeah, really are. So anyway, that's my only suggestion, because
I love
honestly, I think, I have no complaints about TV coverage, anything. I'm a huge NASCAR fan.
Yeah.
I'm a huge women in racing of any kind fan, obviously. But NASCAR is where my heart is. And so that's where my bucket list lies most of the time, for sure.
Great.
So, Jessica, is there anything that I have not asked you about that we should have talked about yourself, your job, something special, anything coming up special that you want to share about at all?
Maybe the only other thing I'd mention is, we have Speedway Children's Charities, our charity that Bruton Smith started after the death of an infant son, and we are really doing some record-breaking fundraising for that. So this year, I think we'll be able to give away almost $3 million, and the year's still not done yet. But since inception, we've given away over $63 million, and I'm very involved in our charities portion as well. So that's just something I'm super excited and proud of. We really just focused on kids in need. I mean, just
that's amazing. That's an amazing amount of money to be able to give away, and you should be proud of that, because really, at the end of the day, if we can't help somebody, then why are we doing this?
Exactly. And a lot of that comes from our generous race fans. So it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, Jessica, I'm so happy we got together. I met you in Charlotte at the Women in Motorsports event. I know you met a lot of women that weekend, but looking forward, hopefully you'll be in Phoenix at the next one. Yes.
I think Cindy said I was one of the first ones to sign up.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And so I will be there as well. Luckily my daughters live there. And so that's one of the places I've already got my flight and got my free room and board at my daughter's. And
that's great. I love it. Good deal.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Super excited.
So I'll see you in person for sure there, if not before. And I just want to thank you for your time and for sharing what you did. I think, people really appreciate the information and hearing a little bit of the background of events and how they happen, because they don't understand. They don't know
Right.
how
Yeah.
many hours of work that it
Yeah.
takes to put an event on. So,
well, and thank you for giving women a platform like this. So, and all your hard work that you put behind your podcast and everything that you do.
Oh, I appreciate that very much, especially coming from you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a great weekend. July
Thank
4th
you.
is coming up.
Yes.
We're both going to be glued to the TV on Saturday and Sunday watching the Chicago
Yeah.
Street Race. And hopefully we have a great weekend. So
I hope so.
thank you
Yeah,
again.
sure. Thank you.
Uh-huh.